Now I think it's time to do a little bit of cleanup, and after we do some cleanup, let's begin with our next major shape, which is the circle. So there's been some stuff that's been hanging around. Let's get rid of this SVG. We don't need it anymore. That we created during discovery. And again, we did some work to try to make our shapes look a little bit better. If you remember, we had that CL shape. So let's get that to work. And all I'm going to do is go into shapes. Oops, keep doing that. Go into shapes. And all we're going to do is within, not the drawing, but within the shape, when we go to get an element, and where's our get element? There it is right there. So we're going to say shape dot set attribute, and it's class, and we're going to set it to class shape. And what this does is it allows control of that to go outside of the code, which I think is really important. Yes, look at that. So we have our shape. So that's cleaned up a little bit. Now let's begin to work on this circle. So let's first start by writing our test. Now, here's the part that gets really, really, really dangerous. We're going to be basically, I'm going to be careful how we put this. We're going to be basically making copies of code. And when we make copies of code is when it becomes the most dangerous. So what we're going to go to shapes test, and we're going to see where we actually tested the rectangle, test the shape. Okay, this should be called test rectangle. And what we're going to do is we're going to repeat this test, and we're going to do a circle. We're just going to call this test circle. Okay. And I'm going to create a new circle. All right, I'm doing it again. And it's just a key, and it's just going to be location 1, 2. And all I want to do is I want to check and see whether the location is in fact 1 or 2. So we're going to save this, and again, my sin is, and be very careful how we do this. We're going to create a class called circle. Okay, extends shape. Oops, and again, if you notice, I'm still, and this one, we can actually just run the test just for circle. So test shapes, dash, 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 T, circle. Maybe we'll make that a little bit bigger. No test match circle. What's the wrong with that? Dash dash T C I R C L E. Can't tell what's wrong quite yet. So let's have a look and see what the problem is. Oh, look at this, of course. There is no shape circle, so we have to go to shapes and we have to fix that problem. So we did actually create a class called circle. We're smart enough to do that. It extends shapes, but what we forgot to do is we forgot to add it to the export. And we'll run it again. And if it's not on the export, again, the code can't find it. All right, our code passed. Now, why did our code pass? Does that make any sense to you at all? Well, as it turns out, because circle extended shapes, it did everything that shapes did. Okay, so let's continue to write tests that causes it to fail. So we did some testing inside a draw to make sure it worked properly as well. So what we may do is we may copy a couple of these tests here and get them to work as well. So see where we created create rectangle? What we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing. So when we test the circle, we're going to also create a panel and tell the panel to create a circle at that location. At 200, 200, create circle. Okay, and again, did it again. And as you can tell, this is what I do. So inside of shapes, there we are creating a rectangle. Now let's create a circle. Now this is going to begin to make me sick, because whenever I'm copy pasting code, I'm looking at saying, what code am I copy pasting that shouldn't be there? So I'm going to leave it for right now. And the reason for that is we're going to refactor this in a second. I just want to make it work. So we're going to get the next key. We're going to do const circle, oops, is equal to a new circle, which is inside of here, so we're okay. Alright, key, and we're going to give it the XY. We can go through that. This dot shapes is equal to that. This dot SVG, const. If we have an SVG, it's going to actually add it. So this probably has to be circle. Oops, finger's on the wrong place. Get element, right on. All right, return the key. All right, let's see if that test passes. And again, we changed a lot of code without actually writing a test. And it's the problem when you start replicating your code like this, that begins to happen. So let's see where the error is now. Oh, look at that, right there. And again, because we're running tests, at least we're able to find these errors. Again, it's not a matter of whether it's going to fail, it's where it's going to fail. Oh, it's actually passed. So do we dare try to test it on the browser? And I think the answer is, why not? So what we're going to do is inside of index, we're going to now say, now let's clean this up a little bit. We're going to now say if, and we'll just make sure that this is where it should be. If we have new circle, we're constant log the x and the y value, and we're going to say panel create circle of the x and y value. And let's do a test, see if that's going to work. Something tells me that while I'm at it, just might as well print the rectangle. Oh, we shouldn't call it rectangle, we should call it circle. And again, you guys can begin to speculate out there why this isn't going to work. Not whether it's going to work, it's why it's not going to work. So if I push rectangle, it works. If I push circle, what's our console log? Our console log is actually printing, but why is it not doing what it's supposed to, right? Or maybe it is. Let's move it out of the way. Nope. If we push circle, circle is not showing up. Now, again, we could look at the elements and see where they're actually showing up in the elements. So let's go to the elements. Let's go to the SVG. Oh, look at this. Undefined, 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 undefined. There's a clue. Okay, so let's now try to create a test that checks to see that. This is all good stuff. So let's try to create a test. So let's get the browser out of our way. And let's go back to shapes.test. Let's go to our circle. And we're going to try to actually create a test that causes the problem. So this probably shows a flaw in our testing. So here what we did is we created a circle. we didn't actually test to see whether the circle is what we expected it to be. So let's go down and let's see where we get the element, and then we can investigate the element to see if it's what we actually expect it to be. And I know down here there's a get element, and then we can actually check to see whether it is any of the things that we thought it would be. All right. So right there. And when we create a circle, what it's going to do is it's going to give us a key. Is equal to panel.create circle. And then we can do const the element is equal to panel.get shape, and we'll get the key shape. And then let's just fool around and print it here. Okay. And then what we can do is we can start to look at the attributes of it, and we're pretty sure that this is where the problem is. So let's save that. Let's go down here and we just have to run that one test right now. So let's have a look. And of course our test fails. And let's try to figure out, oh, look at that, const el is equal to shape.getElement. Now what could possibly be wrong with that? It's a syntax error. El has already been declared. Oh, where has it already been declared? There it is right there. Element. Okay. And this is a shape. And we're going to put the shape in there. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're now going to log the shape and the element. And again, this is pretty cool because what it's doing is it's going to log the shadow object and the DOM object. So this is pretty cool. Flip back. Okay, so it's an SVG element. Okay, and let's have a look. Did it failed? Oh, there's the circle. K1, X, okay, that looks good. But this is an SVG element. Oh, this doesn't look good at all. Here's a problem right there. But I bet you, oh, look at this. 104 null, all of that. All right, so now that is definitely what our problem is. So now when we create a circle, let's go back up here and look at, so it's missing all of this stuff right here. Okay, so let's look at circle. Yeah, and as you can see, there's absolutely nothing in there at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to add its own version of getElement. And its version of getElement is going to actually, if there's a shape, it's going to return it. Otherwise, what it's going to do is going to create a circle here. All right, so that should create a circle. And then the update element. And again, we have to remember a circle is different. It's got CX, CY. And so what this guy is going to do, this guy is going to be, this is CX, CY. And there isn't a width. In this case, I think it's called R. I have to look back and see what it is. We're going to make it 100. Let's just save that. Now let's run that and see whether that actually solves the problem. So what we weren't doing is we weren't actually treating the circle as a circle, and that is a real problem. To be 104, and it's still null. Okay, well, we'll have a look at that and see what's the problem. All right, so now once we get the elements, what we're going to do is we're going to actually check the tag name. and see if it's really what we think it's going to be. Okay, we're going to also e.tag name, and that tag name, it's a property, so that should be equal to circle. C-I-R-C-L-E. Now this should be CX and CY. And let's rerun this test and see if that works the way it's supposed to. Okay, and it did fail. Now why did it fail? Oh, 201. And that's, yeah, see, we created the circle 201. We didn't update our numbers here. 201 and 202. I'm excited here. We're getting there. And again, you see why it's important to make sure your test fails first? Because I don't know how many times I've gone through people's tests and realized that they're not even testing what they expect they're testing. So let's get rid of the console logs because we don't want any of them polluting our data. We can save that again. And if we go over to here, let's now create a circle. Yes, look at that. Now that the move isn't working, but that's a different issue. We're actually creating a circle. So if we put this at 150, 150, and we push circle, we've just created a circle. Now again, that's a fairly large circle. Let's make it a little smaller. It's a little on the ridiculous side. We want some smaller. We'll make a radius of, let's say, 20. Oops, that would be even more ridiculous. 20. Okay, we save that, and we'll put that at 1 and 1, and circle there. Okay, so our next step is let's try to move that circle. And that circle isn't moving. So the question becomes, why is it not working? So we need to put a test together for that. So we're going to have to restructure this. There's no question about it. Our code's getting a little messy, but that's pretty normal, and that's why we refactor. We constantly refactor. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our tests, and we're going to test our move to see why our move is or isn't working, okay? And what we'll probably do, this is testing the rectangle move. And we're going to do a test circle move. Kind of like this code, so we're going to keep it. Test circle move. Okay. New shape circle. And that should be okay. We do a panel drawing, we'll draw it out. And then we do a panel, create circle. Okay, and again, this is a lot of code, but I'm just going to run the test one more time. So we're going to move it, get the shape, and now X and Y should be that. Then we get the element out of it. And what we should be asking now is this is CX and CY, CX and CY. All right, save that. And at this point, we're going to just do the circle, lowercase circle, C-I-R-L-E move. And that should now just run that one test. And we'll see where it fails. What? It all passes. All right. So I wonder what is possibly going on. Circle move, 2 tests pass. What I'm going to do is just to make sure that nothing's funny going on. Just to make sure nothing's funny that is going on, I am going to rerun all the tests, make sure they're all still working. All right, now the tests are working, so in theory it should work on the browser. So let's create a circle. Oh, we created a circle in the wrong place. Let's create it over there. Create a circle. And now what I'm going to do is click on it, and it doesn't seem to be working. So why is it not working? So I click, 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 and it doesn't seem to even be indicating that there's anything there. So what I'm going to do is have a look at the elements, and let's make this big again and see if we can see anything wrong in the elements. So we go to our div, we go to our SVG, and we have a look at it and see. Does anybody see what's wrong here? Right, we do not have a key attribute here. For some reason, the key never got put there. So let's get out of here. Again, what we have to do first is write a test. And that's going to be a fairly easy test to move. So we're creating the shape, creating the attributes, and what we should be doing now, again, we don't care what the key is, but we do make care it exists. And it'll be consistent, so we'll just say key equals K1 and make sure that that in fact fails, because again, always write a test. Just run that one. Always write a test first once we find something wrong. It failed. And why did it fail? Key is null. So let's have a look at the shapes. That's a good one. Never would have figured that out. So where does the key get set? In the rectangle, where does the key get set? Drawing, create rectangle, key equals this dot next key, rectangle, key. All right, so there's the rectangle key, rectangle, so it's circle key. So let's look at the rectangle constructor. There is no constructor. Right, so there's the rectangle. Let's look at the circle does it. Oh my goodness, look at that. For some reason, the key never got put there. So now we have a test for it. That should never happen again. Let's grab this and put that down here. So when we're updating the attribute, the key never gets set. Okay, let's try that. So what we're going to do is put that at 1, 1, 1. Oh, and look, we're doing that wrong. Let's make sure that our test passed first. So excited, yes, our tests do pass. That's perfect, as we thought they would. We're going to press circle, and now we're going to see if this guy moves. Look at that. It moves just like a pro. Isn't that excellent? So that's pretty good. In this section, we got this circle working. And again, I think our code still needs some refactoring, and we will spend some time doing some refactoring, but that's pretty good. Let's take a little break.